I spent 30 years in the software industry in Silicon Valley. I was VP of engineering at a large company, and I had been in that role about 5 years. We had a leadership change, and my new leadership didn't appreciate me, and they were not treating me great. And I was feeling undervalued, underappreciated, underused. And it was such a hard thing because in some ways I was at the top of my career. I had been doing what I thought was the most impactful work of my career. I loved my job. And I realized like I can no longer do this job. I was feeling just devastated. I was feeling like I wasn't appreciated. And so I made a very hard decision, and that was to walk away from a company where I had spent 2 decades, from a career where I had spent 3 decades, and to walk a little bit into the unknown because I didn't know what I was going to do next. But I left that job. I left that job without a plan, without a roadmap. And honestly, that decision changed my life because now it's funny that we're recording this now. It's been exactly 6 years since I left that job. And that decision to leave, even without knowing what I was going to do, led me to meeting incredible people, to starting my own business, to writing the two books that you mentioned, to being a consultant and a speaker and working with people around the globe. And I feel doing honestly the most impactful work of my career, even though this is a late phase of career for many people. So just to be honest, I was 59 years old when I left. I'm now 65. And I feel like I could do this work for decades more. So that was an amazing decision, an impactful decision, and a little bit of a scary decision at the time when I made it.
Wow, very impactful and really inspiring. And what advice would you give to someone facing a big life-changing decision right now?
Mhm. Well, I would offer a few pieces of advice. One is take some time to sit with the decision. You can do your pros and cons list, but also not only just you can certainly put it on paper, like what are the pros and cons of this decision, but also sit with it emotionally and ask yourself, what is energizing me about this decision? What is scaring me? And it's okay to be scared. But if something is really filling you with dread, or it's something you don't want to do in your heart of hearts and in your gut, pay attention to that because, our body and our mind, they're all working together, and we can't make decisions without emotions. So ignore any advice that someone has given you not to be emotional because our emotions help us make decisions. So you can use both your reasoning and your emotions to make a big decision that you're facing. And the other piece of advice I would give you is enlist the people in your life that you trust and who know you well, because they're going to be a really good mirror to say, okay, Natalie, I don't think you're really energized about this thing, or I can see you're excited about this, so maybe you should go in this direction. Talk to people who can reflect back to you, maybe when you're too caught up in your head and you need someone else who can sort of be that mirror and reflect back to you. So that's what I would say. I mean, decisions, there are very few decisions in life that we can't adjust even once we've made them. So, I like when I made that decision to go off on my own, I still could have gone off in a number of directions and I have pivoted along the way. So don't think that you're locked into this decision for the rest of your life, but be as informed as you can be, both with your head and your heart.
Wow, thank you so much. So, Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z, what truly changed in the leadership model? How authority is earned, decisions are made, and feedback flows? And what remains constant across all generations?
Sorry, what was the last question? What?
The last question is, what stay constant across all generations?
Well, and I would add, like, I think you've got 5 generations in the workplace right now, so not just three. And I think let me start with the last question. What stays constant? What stays constant is that people, no matter what generation, what age, no matter what background, everyone needs to feel valued, heard, respected, seen. This is a fundamental human need, and it doesn't matter what generation you belong to, we all need that. Now, leadership models have changed, but they need to continue to evolve. And that's part of the work that I do is that, back in the middle of the 20th century, the common model of leadership was command and control. I'm the leader, I tell you what to do. And that hasn't worked for decades, honestly, and it hasn't worked for generations. Now we're seeing very clearly that when you're talking about Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, that people want to feel that their leadership cares about them, that they care about their mental health, their well-being, that they feel included, that there's a sense of belonging, that there's room for differences instead of conformity and homogeneity. And so leaders need to embrace really creating a culture where everyone feels that they're valued for who they are uniquely and that they all have a voice and that they all can contribute in their own way. And so I think that's where leadership models have to shift. And that's the work that I try to do with leaders is how do we listen to people who don't agree with us? How do we embrace different perspectives? We still have to make decisions. Like, I'm not going to say that it's just totally democratic. That doesn't work. But how can we enlist viewpoints from all of our workforce and all of our generations to make the most informed decisions moving forward? And how do we create a culture where everyone feels that they belong? And I would add that includes boomers like me because they are still in the workplace. And then, the newly emerging people who are in their early 20s who are coming into the workforce. So I think we have to think differently about what it means to lead. We don't have to be all knowing, but we have to be open-minded. And we have to be willing to learn from one another and not assume that the oldest person in the room has all the knowledge. I can learn from the youngest person, and the youngest person can also learn from the oldest person and everywhere in between. So I think this ageism and generalizations that we make about the generations, we have to just get rid of and treat everyone like an individual that they are, and that we all have something to offer in the world. Well, I think that, yes, I would say here, if we're doing this comparison, I would say empathy and compassion is more important than human-centered communication. And if I can, I will say that when we practice empathy and compassion, we will naturally have more human-centered communication because we are coming from a place of empathy and compassion for other people. We will treat them like fellow human beings who care about their well-being and being seen and heard and valued. So therefore, when we communicate with them, we will be more human-centered because we are coming from a place of empathy and compassion. So I think it does start with empathy and compassion, and that's why that takes first place.
Okay, we choose empathy and compassion now. So, next one. Empathy, compassion, or listening that includes every voice.
This one's very hard because I think they are both extremely important. And again, I guess if I had to choose, I would say let's start with empathy and compassion being more important. However, you will quickly alienate people if you do not listen to everyone. So empathy means empathy for all. Compassion means empathy for all, and that means listening to everyone. And so if we inadvertently shut down someone's voice, we're not being empathetic and we're not being inclusive in our listening. So I guess I would say if we start with empathy and compassion as the number one, that will also make us more aware of listening to every voice.
Okay, we choose empathy and compassion. Empathy and compassion, or courage to get uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Um, this is a chicken or egg question because I think when we practice empathy and compassion, we will naturally get uncomfortable. And let me explain what I mean here. We naturally have empathy for the people that we most connect with. people who are like us. And we actually get uncomfortable often when there's someone who's very different from us. And yet, if we're practicing empathy and compassion, we will need to get out of our comfort zone and say, even though I totally disagree with this person, we don't see the world the same way, they make me uncomfortable. I still have to care about them and care about what they're experiencing and have compassion for them. So I'm going to say here, still empathy and compassion, but that it will be intrinsically linked with getting uncomfortable, the courage to get uncomfortable.
Okay, we choose empathy and compassion. And psychological safety. That means that leader provided for the team for sure.
And leaders play a huge role in creating psychological safety, but they can't do it alone because every person contributes to or detracts from the psychological safety of a team. So I think psychological safety, and there's lots of data to back this up, psychological safety is the number one predictor of team performance, inclusion, and innovation. Without psychological safety, you don't get to team performance, you don't get to people thriving in the workplace, you don't get those innovative ideas because people are afraid to share what may seem like a crazy idea. So I am going to say here, and I know it disagrees with your polling, I am going to say psychological safety is absolutely foundational to everything else. And it is also linked very closely to empathy and compassion because in a psychologically safe environment, we care about everybody and we want no one to be suffering. But here I'm going to say psychological safety.
Okay. Psychological safety provided by leader or inclusive meetings by design.
I would say psychological safety is more important here. And with psychological safety, we will design more inclusive meetings because we will make sure that we hear everyone's voice and that there's equal speaking time and that no one is dominating. So I think if you're doing what comes first, what is most important, it's the psychological safety, and we can actually build that with inclusive meetings.
Okay, we will choose psychological safety. Yeah,
Mhm.
here is our choice. Mentorship or psychological safety.
Mhm. Here, I would say we start with psychological safety. It's the most important thing. I think mentorship, of course, is very important, as is sponsorship. But I think, even like a mentor in a mentoring relationship, people will not feel that they can share what's really on their mind if they don't first have a sense of psychological safety. So I'm going with psychological safety here.
Okay. Bold accountability or psychological safety.
Still psychological safety. I mean, I think leaders must be accountable, but I feel like the foundation for everything is psychological safety.
And here is our statistics. So empathy and compassion goes first. Second, human-centered communication. And our psychological safety is for the third place. Creative thinking or conflict navigation.
Mhm. I think as a leadership skill, I would say conflict navigation. And the reason I say that is that if you're the leader, you do not have to be the most creative person in the room. You want to assemble a team of creative thinkers, and you may need to be managing the conflict when creative thinkers don't agree. So I think as a leadership skill, conflict navigation.
Inclusive communication or conflict navigation.
I would say inclusive communication, making sure everyone feels that they're included, okay?
Inclusive communication or resilience, flexibility, and agility.
Hmm. I'm going with resilience, flexibility, and agility.
Yeah. Coaching and talent development, or resilience, flexibility, and agility.
I think leaders above all need to be great coaches and develop their talent. So I'm going with coaching and talent development. Your audience doesn't agree with me.
Yeah. Coaching and talent development, or leadership and social influence.
What does that say? Mobilize people towards outcomes? I'm going to say leadership and social influence then.
Okay, leadership and social influence. 57 agree with us. Curiosity and lifelong learning, or leadership and social influence.
You know, both are so important. I actually believe that for leaders, curiosity and lifelong learning is such a critical skill. And I think I'm going to disagree with your audience here. But I think that if we as leaders don't continue to get curious, to learn from others, we will stagnate and not be great leaders. So I'm going with curiosity and lifelong learning.
Yeah, curiosity. Curiosity and lifelong learning, or systems thinking.
Again, both important. Systems thinking is really important because we have to see beyond just the day to day and see the impact. So I'm going to pick that for this one, systems thinking.
So, first is empathy and active listening, according to our audience votes. Creative thinking goes second. Analytical thinking third. Then goes curiosity. I think it's a really, really powerful skill, curiosity. It's not a skill, it's not a competence, it's a part of person, which really important.
Exactly. It's like a belief system. Yeah.
Then conflict navigation, leadership and social influence, resilience, flexibility and agility, inclusive communication, coaching, and talent development. Please pick your arena. It's automation and robotics skills, for example, or sustainability operations.
I think Gen Z, I mean, so I'm the wrong person to ask these questions. So I think it's sustainability and ops. Sustainability ops. Okay.
Data analytics and visualization, or sustainability ops.
Probably data analysis and visualization.
Yeah. Data analysis or system platform engineering.
Having led engineering in the past, and I will go with systems and platform engineering. Without that, everything else falls apart. People don't agree with me, but I will tell you, you have to invest in that platform. Okay. Design and UX.
Or system platform engineering.
Design and UX are really important.
Yeah.
I'll go with that for here. Just knowing your audience, I think that's what people are going to choose. Oh, maybe not. Yeah.
Design and UX, or networks and Internet of Things.
Networks.
I'm UX designer in the past. Okay, cloud and tech literacy, or network and Internet of Things.
Cloud and tech literacy.
Cloud and tech literacy, or programming.
Cloud and tech literacy.
Yeah. AI and big data goes first. Exactly. Data is everything. It's a new gold. Cybersecurity, for sure. Data analysis and visualization, all about data. Then our client and tech literacy, design, networks, automation, system and platform engineering, sustainability ops, and programming goes last. Okay.
I know, because everyone's afraid that the AI is just going to do the programming for us, right?
Maybe. Please share with us your opinion about the most influential business leader. Who is it? Is Steve Jobs or Satoshi Nakamoto invented Bitcoin?
Well, I think this is where I'm probably going to show my bias of age and having grown up in the age of Steve Jobs and actually seen him speak in person. I'm going with Steve Jobs because I think he really did change the world in many ways.
Yeah. Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett?
Steve Jobs.
Exactly. Great leader. Steve Jobs or Indra Nooyi?
Oh, from PepsiCo.
Yeah.
I wish she were, I don't think she's as well known or gets as much credit for what she's done. And also, as we know, there are very few women CEOs. So I'm going to say, as a pioneer for women in business, I'm going with Indra Nooyi. I know most people want to.
Yeah. Bill Gates or Indra Nooyi?
Oh, for sure, Bill Gates. Again, he was wildly influential in the day, back in the day. Oh,
Bill Gates or Elon Musk?
um, that's a hard one. What was tell me what, oh, influential. It doesn't mean we have to like him. So I'm going to say Elon Musk, very influential.
Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk?
These are such hard questions. Um, I actually think Jeff Bezos. He totally changed retail completely,
Yeah. Globally.
globally. So I'm going Jeff Bezos here.
Jeff Bezos or Larry Page?
Bezos.
Bezos or Oprah Winfrey?
Okay, she is such a brand. I think Oprah. I mean, yeah, Oprah here.
Jack Ma or Oprah Winfrey?
Oprah.
Oprah. Oprah is our winner. First, for sure, Steve Jobs.
Steve
Second,
Jobs,
Elon
Elon
Musk.
Musk. Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey, Jeff Bezos, Satoshi Nakamoto, Jack Ma, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Indra Nooyi, and Larry Page.
You know, so much of this is personality. Look at those personalities. You've got Steve Jobs was such a huge personality. Elon Musk is, Oprah is, Bezos less so, but so yeah, I think that those top three are all really about the huge personality plus the influence.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this interview. Thank you so much for your energy and passion. Thank you so much for participation.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.